the Morwell mine fire obviously had a significant impact upon the Morwell community and its residents, and the Morwell Neighbourhood House, of course, played an important role through that period of time. Of course, during that particular course of time, the emergency services were heavily involved in providing information to the community, and Morwell Neighbourhood House became a juncture, a point where people could visit in consort with the emergency service personnel, with CFA, health services such as paramedics, in providing information to the Morwell community, and that was a really important initiative. And I know that many people attended Morwell Neighbourhood House to receive information, get updates on the situation of the Morwell mine fire, and understand what supports and services were available to them during this course of time. So Morwell Neighbourhood House was very proactive, and I know they were very much appreciative for the work that they have done by the Morwell community. Morwell Neighbourhood House is located in an area where there is a high level of disadvantage, and it's important that the people within that particular community nearby to Neighbourhood House have the opportunity to find out relevant information. Not everybody has a computer where they can go and access online the information that's required, which seems to be, the normal course of method these days in accessing information. So for people to be able to walk into Morwell Neighbourhood House, either have that information articulated to them verbally or by way of handouts, is just another means of making sure they have that opportunity. And so Neighbourhood House played a critical role, I think, in making sure that many of our disadvantaged people in the community understood what was happening in the first instance, and secondly, be able to assist them through a course of recovery.
Well, from my perspective, I was here for a number of the community meetings during the Hazelwood mine fire, and from what I saw, it was a crucial element of the delivery of information to the community from the CFA, the Department of Health, Council, and others that were here. It was an ability to get information out that otherwise wouldn't have been there, and people were reached that could not be reached easily or as quickly through other methods as they could use in the neighbourhood house. And I think it's shown that neighbourhood houses can be used in our emergency management response, and looking forward, I think we need to look at how we can more formally build neighbourhood houses into our response so that it's not as ad hoc as it would. Things worked really well during the Hazelwood mine fire, but always things can be improved, and if we look at formalising the role of neighbourhood houses, not just in Gippsland but across the state, into our emergency response plans, I think it can work a lot more seamlessly, more efficiently, and allow the emergency services to get the information they need out to the community. Because I saw a lot of people here that were confused about the incident, worried about their health. They couldn't access information online, which has become one of the main sources that emergency services use to get information out, which is good because a lot of the community is connected to that and it provides information quickly, but we can't forget the people that aren't connected into that, and they're often the most vulnerable and the most in need of that information to protect themselves and their families. So the neighbourhood house in Morwell demonstrated to me that they are the perfect organisation to achieve that.
And in times of an emergency, particularly the one that we had and the scale of emergency that we had, people turn to what's known to them. People turn to where they know that they can connect with people that can be part of the community, that can provide them with a whole range of information that enables them to source support in a way that perhaps is a bit more challenging in an environment where they don't know. And that's the uniqueness of what a neighbourhood house and what you guys were able to do for this community, given the amount of supports that you mobilise for the community. And I think that's a wonderful way of neighbourhood houses, both here and beyond, to think about their role in an emergency situation. I think that's it's critically important that we use the community assets, and I see the Morwell Neighbourhood House as being a community asset that was able to work really, really effectively in mobilising support and being able to be a venue of safety and comfort for people that wanted some respite and wanted advice and information. So that was, from my perspective, something that played out brilliantly during that very difficult time for us here in Morwell. That they can be used at times of emergencies to bolster the whole range of other mechanisms that are put in place during the response phase and obviously during their recovery phase. And I think neighbourhood houses certainly span both the response and the recovery phase. So it's not that you can just think about neighbourhood houses in response or in recovery. I think you need to think about them as an asset, a community asset that community can sort of leverage off and use quite tangibly, both during response phases and during recovery phases.
So the role of the Morwell Neighbourhood House was a very valuable function that was served during the fire in Hazelwood Mine, and in particular the effects of the fire in Hazelwood Mine and smoke in the community. So the Neighbourhood House was one community group that we could rely on, a very important community group that we could rely on to disseminate information. So a lot of the people that work within an incident control centre, in the regional control centre, in an incident management team, in this case were not local people. So the ability to rely on locals to assist us to ensure that the right information was being relayed to the community in the right format was absolutely critical for these types of events. So hence where we saw the Neighbourhood House really step up and facilitate and lead and ensure that communication occurred. So we've utilised neighbourhood houses on a number of occasions across Gippsland for various fires, in particular bushfires. They're our traditional type of fire. And certainly where we've seen some significant successes in the Far East Gippsland, and places like Can River come to mind, where we've been able to utilise the neighbourhood house network to effectively engage and support and work with those communities to get the right information in the right format that's easily understood and I suppose most importantly from a trusted source. So once again, as we get into fires, in particular long duration fires, we increase the chances of non-local people being involved in managing those fires. So again, the importance of ensuring that local people are involved in communicating information is critical. And we see the neighbourhood house as, in a lot of cases, will be the first phone call we'll make to ensure that we can communicate that information effectively. And my experience is, especially in the remote, isolated locations, that the first bunch of people that come out is the neighbourhood house. So neighbourhood houses can't underestimate their role. But they can't underestimate the need to be involved in some preparedness planning and some readiness planning. And I think in the future we'll see a time where as we come into an age where we're trying to rely on technology to inform people, and you'll get a message on your mobile phone or you'll get a message across an internet service or Twitter or Facebook, and often they'll serve a purpose, but they're not the detailed and they're not the trusted networks that we're looking for that will assist communities better understanding what's going on. So I think we'll see a time in the future where agencies such as CFA, my own agency, that we will see neighbourhood houses being involved in pre-summer exercises and those sorts of activities to ensure that we test the systems to make certain that they are aware of what their, I suppose, obligations are, because there is an obligation from the community, that they'll be informed about what's happening.
Well, during the emergency, the community engagement people come and spoke to the neighbourhood house, spoke about what it is, who they're connected to, what do they need. One of the real practical examples when one of the community engagement people, who's a fire person, said, hey, what about putting some vacuum cleaners in here that people could access on a roster system for free, no different than the lawnmower system. Now that probably put an extra burden on the neighbourhood house, but it was one of those practical things to say, how do you get that if someone needs a vacuum cleaner to clean up their home, from ash being around? So that's using a current trusted network. And I often talk about trusted networks. Neighbourhood house is one of those trusted networks. That is, it's there in the community. People come to the front door because they believe in it, they trust it, and they get information from it and activities. So it's there for many reasons. We've done work with neighbourhood houses, but I think that's one of the opportunities in emergency management of the future, to do more work, not to put extra burden on them, but just to use the connection they've got, whether it's about information, whether it's about someone getting on the internet and seeking information, whether it's someone just to have that verbal discussion about what the emergency means. And it's not in fire, it could be in flood, it could be in any emergency, that the neighbourhood house is one of those that's the closest to the community, and the community trust it and connect to it in normal life. So why not use it? And we should use it, and we should do more of it in the future. Look, I think the services that come out of neighbourhood houses is the normal services. So I don't think in an emergency we need to do things dramatically different, except we need to make sure that information's there, because that's what people are looking for. So if people go to the neighbourhood house looking for something, one, it's got to be about information and being able to explain it or know where to go to get it. Access information is critical, but it's a little bit more than that. I think it's that social cohesion, and when I say social cohesion, that's a bit of a funny word, I suppose, but it's the connection of locals with locals. It's about connection, and I think that's where the work is in neighbourhood house. That's what it'll always be about. And look, there's examples across Victoria that neighbourhood houses have not been engaged, and it hasn't been a good experience. And there's great experiences where neighbourhood houses have been used, and this is one of those. You know, the Morwell experience is, it was used early, it was connected to the emergency. Community members were coming to the neighbourhood house where they normally come, and they were getting information. And not only it's a two-way thing, because the neighbourhood house can be the collector of a lot of information to say, gee, people are experiencing something that others might not have seen, or gee, everyone's experiencing the same problem, we better do something about it. So I think it's clearly a two-way street, and I think that's worked extremely well in Morwell. Well, the importance of the network about neighbourhood houses, it's all about community. It's the local community connection, and that's what neighbourhood means. It is the connection to the neighbourhood or the local community. We've just got to use it more. We've got to use it more effectively. And when I say use is a funny word. It's actually respect, understand what it does, the neighbourhood house, and build upon it and support it to do it not only in normal times but during an emergency. So neighbourhood houses are really important, and where they are, I think we've got to actually spend more time to understand them and connect to them earlier in an emergency.